Hello, my name is Karen Horn, and I'm the school-based mental health professionals educational consultant on the Student Services Prevention and Wellness team at the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. I'm excited to be here with you today to discuss the Wisconsin School-Based Mental Health Professionals Project. During our overview of the School-Based Mental Health Professionals Project, I will provide insight into the key components of our participation in this federal grant. We will discuss the priority areas of the grant, the goals, desired outcomes, current data regarding school-based mental health professionals in school, both at the national level and here in Wisconsin. Lastly, we will review where you can find the latest information and resources connected to this grant. I'm so excited to speak to you today about the Wisconsin School-Based Mental Health Professionals Project. We were selected to be awarded a $10 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education late last fall. We were one of 6 states awarded, and our priorities are to expand pathways for the respecialization of existing mental health professional providers to qualify them for work in districts with demonstrated need, including rural districts in federally defined opportunity zones and or American Indian, Alaska Native tribal applicants. There are 4 key goals that are the focus of this project. In the next 4 years, we're focused on assisting school districts with identifying needs in the recruitment and retention of school counselors, school social workers, and school psychologists, therefore reducing high student to pupil services staff ratios. This will be accomplished through building an infrastructure with University of Wisconsin pupil service programs to increase training opportunities for those interested in pursuing a school-based mental health profession. In addition to increasing the number of pupil services staff recruited and retained, we seek to increase the diversity of these positions so that they're representative of the students and families we serve across the state. This is a table of the ratio of school-based mental health professionals to students. You will notice that the state mean is the far right column, and that was determined by our statewide reporting system. Districts report their staffing level, and we use those numbers in that column. The recommended ratio is from the National School-Based Mental Health Professional Associations. The state, and then I mentioned the state mean is our statewide numbers. When you look at the national averages, however, you can see the national averages compared to our state mean, that we're not far off. However, when you compare that to the recommended ratios, you can see that we have some work to do. These ratios impact the retention and recruitment of school-based professionals, as we know that high student to staff ratios increase compassion fatigue, burnout, and ultimately can create harm for our students and their families. Recommended ratios are intended to ensure that professionals can address student needs effectively. It is important to note that these are generalized ratios, and recommended staff to student ratios are even lower where there is a greater need, such as communities with high levels of poverty, community violence, trauma, or lack of access to mental health services. In many of our communities, the school is the only source of mental health support within reach. The past year and a half in particular has highlighted the significant mental health needs of our students across the state. And high student to pupil services professional ratios really inhibits this important work. This slide references the percentage of school-based mental health professionals based on our Y-staff reporting. The percent is the total mental health professionals by ethnicity versus total ethnic representation by state. Our grant will be focused on communities where the number of American Indians is higher, but representative mental health professional staffing ratios serving these Native American students are low and lacking diversity. So when you look at the ethnicity percentage of our professionals that are in school-based mental health positions, you can see that they are predominantly white. And our goal is to increase the diversity so that we can see representative staff to our students and families. In the process of writing for this grant, we created a logic model that looked at various barriers to retention and recruitment of school-based mental health professionals. These were the primary areas identified that would help to remove these barriers. So the first is working with our University of Wisconsin pupil services programs to create and expand pathways to licensing. Working with districts and schools with high needs to recruit and retain DPI licensed school-based mental health staff. Working with tribal leaders and communities to recruit and retain school-based mental health staff that serve members of federally recognized tribes. And lastly, but not least, increasing the diversity within school-based mental health professions. Our grant timeline. So this first part of the year, beginning in February, we focused on the staffing shortages across the state. We found that it is essential to build an infrastructure that makes these licensing programs accessible. So the first phase of our project is focusing on planning and contracting with partnering University of Wisconsin programs to remove barriers for prospective students and increasing access. One of these approaches is building and expanding virtual and pupil services programming to recruit and place licensed school-based mental health professionals. From fall of this year until spring, we will be focused on LEA selection. So the selection of school districts and schools across the state that have an illustrated need. We will be planning and contracting with selected LEAs, school districts, to build an infrastructure for the recruitment and retention of pupil services professions. As we move through this project, frequently asked questions are asked of me on a regular basis. And I thought it would be helpful to share some of these questions with you to provide more clarity. And certainly where you can go to get more answers if you have questions. So one of the questions that I'm often asked is, how can my school or district apply to participate in this project? It's important to note that the selection process is the process in which LEAs will be a part of this project is through selection. So it's based on need and data. To best achieve these goals and identify districts with the greatest need, a selection process will be used to identify school districts and schools to participate in the school-based mental health project. Using LEA priority criteria instead of a competitive application process will increase the likelihood of the identification of school districts or schools based on need from multiple data sources rather than applicant skill for writing applications. All LEAs, regardless of total enrollment, will be eligible for consideration. How are high need schools and districts identified? Well, the selection process that I mentioned earlier is based on targeted data points to identify high need. And some of these data points include demonstrating high student to provider ratios, demonstrated history of unfilled school-based mental health professions or positions, serving a significant number of students from Wisconsin tribal nations, disparity between cultural, racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity of staff when compared to the student population, exhibiting a school climate that is negatively impacted by pervasive violence, poverty, or substance abuse. All of the selected schools and districts will be shared on our project website, and I'll be sharing that website with you shortly. Another question that's frequently asked, can we hire a teacher or other educator to fill a pupil service position? It's important to note that in order to be a school counselor, school social worker, or school psychologist, They must have completed a master level pupil services program and be licensed or enrolled in an approved program working towards licensure. Please be sure to attend the second part of our presentation to learn more about licensure in pupil services professions. The requirements and most commonly questions also will be answered related to licensure. An educator in my school district that wants to be a school counselor, school social worker, or school psychologist and is interested in this project, what can we do? I would say encourage them to enroll, if they're not already, in an accredited college or university for school counseling, school social work, or school psychology. Once our contracts as a part of this project are completed, we will provide a complete list of participating University of Wisconsin pupil services programs on our website. Additionally, you can direct questions to me. I'll share my contact information at the end of this presentation. Andrea Donegan for school counseling, Tim Peerboom for school psychology, and Julian City for school social work. We are all keeping a list of interested candidates to link with our University of Wisconsin programs. Andrea, Julie, and Tim will be providing more information on pupil services licensing and contact information following this session. This is our grant webpage. You will notice at the very top, and I'm going to open this up so that you can see it. You can see that there is a state-funded school-based mental health grant, not to be confused with the federal school-based mental health professionals project. So just if you are interested in the state school mental health grant, you would click on this link and it'll take you there. Additionally, if you look at this page, you will notice that it gives you the goals of this grant. It explains the funding, what our focus will be. And then under resources, there is a recorded overview that you can certainly share with any stakeholders that you think would be interested. It's brief, it's about 7 minutes long. And then our grant implementation timeline. So what is our focus currently and where are we moving? Also know, as I mentioned earlier, that once we have all of our executed contracts with University of Wisconsin programs, they will be listed on this site, as well as all of those school districts and schools that were selected. However, you will be seeing that at the beginning of 2022 for LEA selection. So that is our overview for today. Again, my name is Karen Horn, and you can reach me either through the website that I just referenced. There's a link where you can email me. Otherwise, you can contact me at karen.horn@dpi.wi.gov. I welcome any questions you might have, and I certainly will follow up with you as soon as possible. Stay tuned for new developments in this project. And if you have professionals that are interested and want to get involved with UW Pupil Services programs to start working in districts of need, please reach out to me directly. I am keeping a list, and that will be updated on a regular basis. Thank you.